everybody. This is Josh with Josh's Water Jobs. And today on the Diving into Water and Sanitation Careers, I am here with Nsuku Nxumalo. And I am forgetting a click in the last name because my pronunciation does not go that far. Nsuku, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Nsuku Nxumalo, and I am the current program officer at the Danish Embassy for a water sector program between Denmark and South Africa. And yeah, my background is mainly in groundwater, that is academically, and more recently in water policy and management at Oxford. And yeah, so that's my sort of short introduction. And thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to have you. So I start all these podcasts with these interviews with the same question, in that is there a body of water that you identify with most, and could you tell us why it's meaningful to you?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. You'd think, because I've loved, the water sector since I was in high school, I would have had a water body that I identified with from long ago. But I think that sort of water body that I connect to or that's special to me came more recently in 2019, 2020 when I did my master's, and I was focusing on the Nile River Basin. So I think the Nile River for me is now just very special, and I think that moment of just connection came when I actually took a boat ride on the Nile, and we got to the point where the Blue Nile and the White Nile meet, and it was just such a aha moment for me in a way, because I just think sometimes we look at the little blue squiggly lines on the map and we're like, oh, that's a river, but when you actually see how big the river is and just how majestic it is, like this moving body of water is just, yeah, so remarkable. And then you start to think about all the dynamics around it, geopolitics and everything, and it's just so fascinating, especially the fact that, I mean, the whole river is shared by what, 11 countries or so. So yeah, I think just that beautiful complexity for me fascinates me, and I'd say that's the one water body that I connect to because I did my research there, but that I'm just really fascinated by and how it's currently managed.
Great answer. Yeah, great body of water too.
Yeah.
um, do you have a role model or a mentor, someone who's inspired you and to pursue a career in water? And could you tell us a little bit about that person and how they've influenced you?
I think, well, I don't really have, a single person that inspired me to get into water, but I've got people that have inspired me to stay in water. I think that's how I'd put it.
That's good.
Because I mean, I started my studies already going towards the hydrogeology stream, but my lecturer in the honors level, Dr. Matthijs Dippenaar at the University of Pretoria, he was just so passionate about groundwater, brilliant guy, and he really just inspired me to stay in the field. So that even when I went to study, I mean, when I went to work and I was doing environmental work, my heart was still steered more towards water related projects. And I think another person who also encouraged me, or rather helped me stay in water, was then my latest supervisor in masters, Dr. Kevin Wheeler, who was also doing a lot of work in the Nile River Basin, and just his technical knowledge, and his just so inspired. Yeah, just such a passionate person about transboundary water. Really got me yeah, got me into the field even more deeply. And so I think there's been a lot of people, mentors, and now I can allude to my current boss and a mentor, like Nick Tandy. These are people that continue to inspire me to stay in the sector because they're just so passionate about the importance of water, justice, human rights, all of that as far as water is concerned. And I think those are the people that I would say really stand out as, the reasons for my still being in water and still, excited for a long journey in the water sector.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting framing on a mentorship. I never thought about that, but it's totally like I had when I was in my master's degree, I totally thought about leaving water and doing something else. But yeah, it was just staying with certain people who were in the field who
Hmm.
kind of dragged me back in a way. And then, yeah, it's haven't left
Exactly. We need
ever
those
since.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned what inspired you to stay in water. What originally inspired you to start working on water?
Yeah, that one I can definitely say was a competition that was run in high school by the Department of Water and Sanitation in my country. It was a poster competition. I just randomly, thought, oh, but let me just try out. And I mean, I got selected to go on this water camp, and they took us to different water treatment works. And that was my first time on a water treatment works. And I was, mind blown, like, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. This is how the water flows and everything. And I was convinced from that moment onwards that I wanted to work in the water sector. But I was also a little bit of a confused kid because I wanted to do a bit of engineering, a bit of environmental work, a bit of geology, and I think that's why hydrogeology for me was perfect. It was like the
Yeah.
melting pot of all my interests, and it was still in water, and yeah, so I think that competition really spurred that interest in water, and I've since been, flowing in this current.
Yeah. How old were you when that competition was?
I was probably 17. I was in grade
Okay.
11. Yeah, so
Yeah.
17,
It's
16. Yeah,
yeah, it's encouraging to hear that such a competition like that it works. Like it brought you into the field, and so maybe something that's should be looked at in other places as well to do.
exactly. I
So,
think these, kind of encounters at a young age, they definitely sow a seed. If anything, a seed of interest. And if you really cultivate it, it's amazing to see what happens. So I'm actually working on a project at work, and one of the sort of mini projects was that the NGO that we're working with is also running a similar poster competition. And I told them my story, and when their poster winner won, I was able to engage with them and just tell them, hey, it started here for me as well. So I hope that she too will have a long career in the water sector. So yeah, I really think these kind of initiatives at the school level make a difference.
yeah, wonderful. That's a great story. So, where have you arrived at now? Can you tell us about your current job
hmm
and share what it took, the steps that it took to to arrive there, and how did you find out about the position?
Yeah. So like I said, I currently work at the Embassy of Denmark. It's not a role that I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna go work for an embassy. I didn't know such a role existed. But yeah, I was just fresh out of my master's, and I came back. I went back to work in mining, but I think after doing the master's, I knew that I wanted to work more in like water policy, but still merging in the science. So that science policy kind of interface. Um, and also having some sort of international thrust to my work. So, yeah, I think I came back and I was just doing normal Google searches, water scientist, water management manager, whatever normal keywords, but that wasn't really bringing out the kind of roles I was looking for, and it wasn't really complementing my skills as much. But I kept doing it. But I also set up an alert for water policy on LinkedIn, and I think I just set it up on the fly. But randomly, at some point, I think a couple of months later, I got an email that, oh, your alert has generated a job or something like that. And so I looked at it, and then I thought, oh wait, this is interesting. And the full title was Strategic Water Sector Cooperation Officer. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But yeah, I think the alert is what really connected me to it. And the more I looked into the role, looking at how the program is structured, it complemented so much of my journey from groundwater to water policy through mining and water efficiency. So yeah, that's really how I got connected with the job. So random searching, but also setting up a LinkedIn alert definitely helped
Yeah,
me get, or at least get to know about the role.
yeah, yeah. Actually, it's good to hear this because we're right now. I'm not like literally we have somebody working on this right now that we'll be setting up job alerts through the
Ooh.
website, so people will be able to do exactly what you did with LinkedIn, hopefully in the near future. So
Yeah, it's really helpful.
yeah. So we had a brief chat before this interview,
hmm
and you had mentioned some of the things that you had done to improve your candidacy for this job that I thought was really interesting and would be helpful for others to hear. So can you tell us a little bit
hmm
about that?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I after getting this alert, I was, very interested in the job. But before that, I had applied to a couple of jobs, whether it's through the, easy apply on LinkedIn, or I would have, gone to certain websites and seen interesting jobs, and I've just sent my generic CV. But when I saw this job description, I really wanted it. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I really want this job. So what I did was I actually redesigned my CV. I redesigned my cover letter. Instead of using the generic one where you just sort of plug and play, a few things, write the job title and keep it as it is, I read that job, description, and I looked at my own experience, my own qualifications, and how these two connect. And I made sure that my cover letter was very clear about how, you know, what the job description says connects to what I know or what I've done or what I've studied. So I really worked hard to rewrite my cover letter. I also worked hard to redesign my CV so it's not too text heavy, because it had a lot of text
Yeah.
initially and it was just a shopping list of things. And so I really, looked into just designing it to be more, appealing visually, but also just, yeah, focusing on the key things that make me stand out for the role. So I basically tailored my CV and cover letter for the role instead of just sending my generic normal CV like I had done for previous roles. So that's definitely one thing I did. But I also went as far as to look at the job description and the person who's the contact person for the role. I emailed them and I asked them a couple of questions. That person actually turned out to be my current boss. So I didn't know that, of course, at the time, but I just wanted them to have my name, at the back of their mind that, okay, this person is curious about this role. They're interested. Even before I sent my application, they were already saying, oh, we look forward to receiving your application, because I had a couple of questions. And, it just showed that I was really interested. I even went on LinkedIn and I found people that worked for the embassy, and I just reached out to them because I really wanted to know more about the embassy and what it's like to work there. And I mean, the people were very helpful to tell me their experiences on LinkedIn as well. And so, yeah, I think those are some of the steps that I normally don't go, through, or steps I don't normally take when I'm applying for a job. But that's really what I did, and I really think it helped me. Also, interesting enough, I started following, my current boss on LinkedIn just to see what he's posting about the program. And I just so happened to quote something in my interview that I read on LinkedIn, and it so happened to be a quote of his. I didn't know that at the time, but I think it's just one of those things where the dots connect. And yeah, you're just surprised at how all this research that you've done, because I was on the embassy website. I wanted to know this program and the embassy back to front, and I think it really came out even in the interview, just, yeah, being so immersed in the organization and the program, because I read all that I could about the program that I'm currently working on. So yeah, I think it's a range of steps, but I really think they definitely helped me stand out in getting this job.
Yeah. I mean, I think those three things you mentioned, like tailoring your CV, reaching out to the contact person, and then reaching out to other people within the organization, within the embassy in this case, I think those are like probably some of the best pieces of advice or steps that someone can do to improve their
Hmm.
chances at a job. I couldn't say that enough, especially in reviewing a lot of CVs and cover letters, like if it's not matched up with what the job description was, or people are asking good questions and it shows that they've done the research like you did on the organization in the interview or in an email to the hiring manager, like it makes a big difference, and shows that kind of desire to get the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's great for other people here listening to heed that advice, because I think it's really helpful in helping get a job. So in addition to that, do you have any other tips for your peers in terms of uh, how to get a first job or in starting a new position, looking for a new position?
Yeah, I think the items that I listed before definitely help if you're trying to get a job, really do your research and set up those alerts. Sometimes they do, bring out jobs you're not really interested in, but sometimes it can definitely be really helpful. So that's one. But I think I would summarize my advice to somebody who's looking for a job or somebody who's starting a new job as connect and converse. So, but by that I mean connect with people that are in your field on LinkedIn or on whatever platforms that are available to you, but also join the conversation. I think it helps to know what people are talking about in your sector. So that's really helped me, especially starting in the new role, because I was coming from mining. And as much as I had done some work in water, I wasn't completely in the water sector. So starting a new role felt like this new role felt like I was joining a new industry. But really, getting mentors and getting connected with the current conversation that's happening, whether it's issues of non-revenue water or sanitation or whatever it is that you're working on. For me, LinkedIn was a really powerful tool to get connected with a lot of groups, a lot of key, thought leaders in the sector to kind of know what people are talking about. But especially when you're starting a new role, start being on the lookout for potential mentors. I cannot emphasize this enough. Mentorship is so powerful in helping groom you as a career person. It really just helps you, and it's not even about you, becoming a small version of your mentor. It's really about, learning from your mentor to become the best version of yourself. So I've been very intentional since joining the water sector to formally request people to be my mentors and also just build relationships with people whom we don't, formally call it mentorship. It's really just a relationship with somebody who has more experience than me, but I'm already learning from just getting to know them. So I think definitely you can't walk this journey alone. So if you are starting a new job, be on the lookout for people who can mentor you. And that could be in your organization or outside the organization, or just asking for a quick chat with somebody that you admire on LinkedIn and just, can I, of course, you have to have that structured, of course, but I really think, yeah, just not thinking that you have to do this alone or figure it out alone is really important. And also just, yeah, get connected to know about stuff. And again, the onus to learn is on you. So when you're starting a new position, read up on your company policies, on previous reports of work done. Just do the work to really get the knowledge of the landscape of your organization, the landscape of your department, and work that has been done in the past. So yeah, I think that's how I'd summarize it. So get connected, but also join the conversation.
Okay. I think we should just have that on the front page of Josh's Water Jobs. In terms of what you
Perfect.
just said, I think that's really
Yeah, I mean,
very
even a
comprehensive,
platform like this,
very
I mean,
comprehensive, very good advice.
exactly. I think
Yeah.
even just, even listening to podcasts like this helps you know what are people doing, what are the kind of roles that exist, because that's another thing when you're looking for a job. You don't know what kind of roles exist. So yeah, keep getting connected and try to see the lay of the land.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really great advice. Yeah, because especially the water community, call it the water community. It's such has so much breadth to it in terms of
Exactly.
all the different things you could do, linked to almost every other subject too. So it's a
Mm,
really and I think in our undergraduate studies, for example, we don't quite understand say all those connections with all the other or just see what all the possibilities are to work how we can work in this community. So
true.
okay, great advice. So speaking of advice, what was the best job advice that you've ever received?
Hmm. That is a tricky one.
If
Because
you
I've
have.
really I received a lot of advice from people. Um, Yikes. How do I hmm. I think one of the best job advices I've received was to to ask for help. I think there's this notion of trying to be this success story where you did it all yourself, or you just came in and you were a trailblazer in your organization. But as a young professional, you have so much to learn. You have so much to, get to grips with, that I think just asking for help when you don't know what to do is really important. But also being humble enough to learn. I think one of my favorite quotes is by, I think it's Alvin Toffler, if I'm not mistaken, that says, "The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn." So I think the best advice that I could say, you know, sure, it's ask for help, but also be ready to learn, and unlearn some things. So don't come in, into the sector and just say this is how it is, this is how I was taught, this is what the textbook says, but to really be a conduit of knowledge, be willing to be a sponge, but also be willing to unlearn things. So I think that's probably the best advice that I've gotten because it's helped me adjust and be very adaptable to situations. Whatever changed, whether it's an industry change or changing from the work environment to school environment, being able to ask for help and being able to learn and unlearn have really helped me become versatile and helped me thrive.
Amazing. That's really, really good advice. I think. Yeah. Um, so, on the flip side of that, is
Yeah.
there any advice that, say, has not served you well?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, wow. Great, great.
So, no, well, okay, I'm glad that I did not take the advice. Let's put it that way, because
Okay. Yeah.
I think the worst advice I got was that I should hold off on doing my master's. I was too young to pursue a master's abroad. So that's something that somebody advised me and said, look, we can see you want to go do your master's abroad. And this was somebody who was in a position to fund my master's, but they said, no, we can't because we think you're too young. We don't think you'll make it. And so, um, I mean, a year later, I got two other scholarships to go abroad, do my master's. I made it. I enjoyed it. I had the greatest experience of my life. And so I'm glad I didn't hold off because they actually said, give it a few years. And I'm thinking a few years later, I would not be in the position that I am in now. So I'm glad that I decided to go anyway. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Of course, people tell you maybe you're too young or you don't have enough experience, and of course there may be some truth to it. Of course, you need to check if you are mentally ready or whatever for to take up the choice, or rather to take up the opportunity. But simply just being too young is not enough to say that you can't do something. So I think that's something that I had to learn and decide that I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I
Yeah,
went.
yeah. You seem to be doing okay.
I'm doing okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, how many years removed from your undergrad were you when you went to do your master's?
Sorry?
How many years in between your master's and your undergrad?
Oh, okay, yes. I finished my undergrad in 2016, and then I went to do my master's in 2019. So about 3 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah. Okay, that's not too young. I mean,
Great.
yeah.
Had
20,
some
yeah,
work
around
experience.
25 is
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think that like 1 or 2 years work experience is great.
No, it was
I
really
think
helpful. Yeah.
going directly in after an undergrad, I think is it can be done, but I think having that work experience is really valuable. But yeah, but I don't think it needs to be 5 years. I think yeah, 2 to 3 years is great. So
Yeah, exactly. I think one just needs to really check, well, first of all, your sector, if
yeah,
that's even, advised. But I think the biggest thing is also being sure that this is really the direction that you want to take
exactly.
and that you're ready to put in the work, because I will admit it wasn't easy, especially adjusting from work again to the school
Yeah,
environment. But because I was really determined and I had a lot of support, I was able to do it.
great. So, speaking of challenges, what has been the biggest challenge you faced thus far in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Hmm. Biggest challenge in my career. Um, I would think it was probably applying to go abroad.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
No, it was really, I mean, this is not really career in terms of job per se. It was applying for scholarships to go abroad.
yeah, yeah.
So I had my admission already, so the universities had accepted me. But I'll tell you this, getting funding to go abroad is not a child's play.
Nope.
And I don't think it's so much that, the opportunities aren't there. There's so many funding opportunities, really, they are. They're just really competitive, and having to
Yep.
learn how to present yourself, having to learn, why. I think the biggest thing I had to learn from that was my why. Why do I want to do this? Because everybody will ask you if they need to fund you, if they need you, if they need to accept you into the university. The question is why. And I think for me, I would say that was the biggest challenge because it defined my whole outlook, or my whole career outlook for now at least. That was, why do I want to be in the sector? Why do I want to do this master's, And I think that was very challenging because the first year I applied to so many scholarships and I didn't get them, not even one. And the next round, when I interrogated my why, I changed the degree I was going to apply for and the university. And I was then able to get, funding because I finally understood my why. I finally understood what makes me worthy to do this. And so it was, yeah, it helped me actually to get through that step. And when I came back, it was now easier for me to start looking for roles, yeah, I guess in the field that I wanted to look for roles in. So yeah, I think that was really a challenge because it wasn't nice not getting all, those scholarships I applied for. It's a lot of work to write, all these motivation letters, get references, all of that. But I'm very grateful for that process of reflection and interrogating my reason for being in the sector, because now I can, push hard and work really hard because I know the kind of difference I want to make and I know why I'm here. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really it's great. It's one of the pieces of advice I give about to people when they're asking whether to do a PhD or not, and the
Hmm.
why you want that, why you want to go into that is one of those key pieces, because I think if having that confidence and that firm rationale internally gets you through what is a tough process. And
Yeah.
so it's and yeah, and it sounds like yeah for your masters it was quite similar. So yeah, that's also you're getting a lot of great pieces of advice in here. So
I
a lot of
hope
good
so.
insights. Oh, definitely, this is great. So, I mean, you've already had kind of even at a young age, you've already had quite a varied career in different kind of subsectors of water, if you will. So, what are you looking forward to most as you continue forward?
I'm looking forward to impact, hey? Um, I think and of course that's a very difficult thing to measure, but I'm really looking forward to making a difference. And that could be in, little things or big things, whether it's, helping a community manage their water better, or influencing a policy, starting, a program that, yeah, leads to more, access to water. Whatever it is, I think I'm looking forward to walking away knowing that I did my part. So I think that's really what I'm looking forward to, and also just working with great minds. I think there's just so
Yeah,
many amazing people in the sector that I keep reading about, that I keep hearing on podcasts, and I'm just like, I need to meet this person, or I need to work with this person. So I'm really looking forward to working in a variety of teams and just learning from these amazing people, and really just making a difference. I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to, whatever the scale that may be. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and just the adventure of a career, which is dynamic, right? You
yeah,
don't know what things are going to be like in the next 5 or 10 years. You can dream, of course, but yeah, enjoying the journey.
yeah, yeah. Great. So in looking at say so as part of this podcast we talk with senior professionals and junior professionals, and so if you were to what advice would you give to a senior professional to help them better prepare and help those young professionals in the field succeed?
Yeah. I'm thinking of my own mentors and what's the gift they've given me. And I think the gift is two-pronged. So the one is telling their story. I think sometimes we think senior professionals just need to come down and tell us what to do, or just, advise us, or yes, you should make this decision or not make this decision. I think the thing that I've gained the most from my mentors is them simply telling me their career journey, their story,
Mm, mm,
because I can pick out a lot of nuggets of wisdom from their journey, from decisions they made, from places they've been, people they've worked with. And I think being open to tell your story is definitely one. And of course, to people who really want to listen, please, I think senior professionals should definitely be very open and willing to share their story. But again, I think one thing they also have from the experience is the ability to ask the right questions. So every
mm,
time I've had to make a decision that was career related and I asked my mentors for advice, a lot of them weren't quick to tell me what to do, but they asked me questions. They asked me questions I don't always have the answer to in the moment, but they've helped me to learn how to make decisions for myself, but be able to think about what are those factors you need to consider if you want to move from one job to the other, or what other factors to consider if you want to, get a promotion or ask for a raise, whatever it is. I think it's the questions that they ask. So I think if senior professionals, see a young person that's, got the potential, or young person that's in their proximity, they would really do, yeah, they would really be doing a great service in just telling their story to that person, but also starting to ask them questions so they start thinking more critically about their career. Because I think sometimes we can be very passive about our careers and just, you've got the job and just do your work and hope that, things work out. But I think there's also a way in which you can be very strategic in your career moves. And I think that's something that senior professionals have learned and that they can help us with. And I've definitely enjoyed being asked those questions. Some of them are tough, but also being able
mm,
to grow under that kind of insight that I wouldn't have had by myself. So
yep,
it's really having that different perspective and being able to or willing to share it.
mm. Great. Yeah, and that's one thing we're trying to do actually with these podcasts, at least with the senior professionals, to
Hmm.
tell at least the first half of what you're saying is to tell their stories, because some of them are so fascinating. Like they're really amazing to
Right?
hear what some of these people have done. Like it's amazing. So
Yeah, storytelling is
okay,
very powerful.
yeah. Um, okay, so as you know that it's so we have these interviewing senior professionals and junior professionals. Um, we haven't interviewed a senior professional recently, which that person would normally provide a question to you. So I'm
Hmm.
going to step in and ask a question as I guess I'm a senior professional in some ways.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask my own question to you because it's something I'm curious about, and actually what we at Josh's Water Jobs want to think about in the future about how we can help with.
Hmm.
And that is, so you've definitely shown through this interview and the answers to the questions that you have this passion for water, in the work you do. And what is also happening, kind of a worldwide phenomena, is that there's a growing professional gap in terms of the people that are the needs of people working in the water and sanitation sectors, and the
Hmm.
people who are going into and studying the field and working in that field. And that gap is growing. And obviously, we're going to be having more and more water problems in the future, which we're all working against, but that's the reality. So
Hmm.
how do you say you can instill that passion that you have in others to encourage people to work in the field? I mean, you mentioned the competition, which I think is that's a one idea. Do you have any other ideas about how to instill that passion in people to work in this field?
Yeah, I think there's a variety of ways in which we can instill or, yeah, water the seed that's already there, in terms of the passion for water. And I think, of course, I've already highlighted the power of storytelling. So whether that is through podcasts or, YouTube videos, or actually visiting schools to tell people about, the world of opportunities in the water sector, or even at universities where somebody has studied a certain degree, but it can be applied in the water sector. So I think storytelling is definitely one, and trying to see how we can use it in different ways to reach a lot of people. So that's one, and I think projects as well. So a lot of young people, they want to volunteer, they want to make a difference, but sometimes you don't know where to start. So if there are
Yeah.
projects that can be running in a community where young people can get involved, that sort of firsthand, experience that you did something in the water sector and there's so much more that is needed can also spur that interest. So I think, yeah, I'd leave it at that. So, between competitions that run, programs and opportunities for volunteering, and also just storytelling or telling people about the sector at various levels, I think that can definitely help to encourage people. And I guess lastly, I'd also say mentoring. That of course sometimes feels like it's a one-on-one thing, but you never know what that one person that you're mentoring could grow up to become. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. Well, that already gives me some ideas about what we could possibly do. So great. Thank you for that. Uh, so, in theory, the next person I interview will be a senior professional. So, do you have
hmm
a question that you would like to ask a senior professional that they would then answer, not knowing who that person is, but
Yes, I do actually. I have two, if that's okay. But
that's wonderful. Yeah.
okay, but I think the second one is shouldn't be too hard, I hope. Well, yeah, I think the first question is what would they do differently in terms of career decisions that they've taken along the way if they had the opportunity? So that's one. And I think the second one is what book recommendations do they have for a young professional? And it doesn't have to be necessarily a water related book, it could be personal development, but what kind
Yep.
of books would they recommend a young professional reads?
Okay. Those two great questions. We'll definitely ask them on the next round. So, well, thank you very much, Nsuku. This has been really a wonderful interview. Thank you for your time and really the wonderful insight and great advice that you've provided for your peers. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. And yeah, I look forward to listening to the other podcasts and also hearing the answers to my questions.
Great. Wonderful. Okay. Have a great day and thanks again.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye.